Welcome back. Now let's talk about a little bit more in detail the user experience that you're looking at here. Before I dive too deep, let's talk about some of the things I have open. I have a few tabs open with different demos. I also have a mobile view over here. This is just some free website, mobiletest.me, that will allow you to look at software and interact with it just like you're on a phone. So it's really just a smaller browser with a little decoration around it. So up here in the top, I have a power generation demo. I'm going to spend most of my time on this because it's kind of got all the features enabled and a lot of demo data in it and other things. And let's look at a few others. Here's a dashboard for a satellite experience, a telecommunications company, and using our dark theme. Here's a transmission and distribution one. Here is a solar one that uses predictive analytics and other pieces. I'll walk through a little bit of pieces of each of these demos as we go along, but I'll spend a lot of time in this power generation one. Now let's dive in and let's walk around this screen and see what's here before we get to the data. I'm going to start at the very top left here, and you'll see first what we call the hamburger menu. This is what opens and closes the navigation bar, the primary navigation. Okay, and going through the navigation bar, let's talk about what's on it. So top is the visual KPI logo. This also serves as a home button, which takes you to the top level of the hierarchy. So if I click on that, you're going to see that I go to the top level of the groups, which is where all my KPIs are, and I can drill down, etc. Okay, it doesn't take you to the dashboard, even though that's often most people's landing spot. So it's there specifically to clear all your filters or anything else, any customization you have, and take you right to the top of the hierarchy. Okay. Second one is the dashboard. I'm looking at the dashboard here. I have many dashboards. I'll go through those in a lot of detail coming up soon. Then you have the groups, which is the hierarchy. That's the same thing as clicking on Visual KPI, except it won't clear your filters or any customization you have going on. That'll just take you to wherever you are in the hierarchy, not necessarily the top level. Okay. And then inside of groups, we have KPIs, charts, and tables. When I go over the concept of groups, I'll talk about how these live at each level of the hierarchy, where we talk about groups. The next level down is the share button. So you'll notice that everything in our system is shareable, and you can share via links. We don't share actual screens or actual data. So if I click the share button, which I won't do now, I'm going to talk about this in detail later, it's going to open up an email with a link back to whatever I was looking at. Okay, so even if I had customized that page, it's going to take me right there. So I'm sharing a link, and if I share it with the wrong person, like a competitor or somebody who shouldn't have access to this, well, hopefully your systems are secured, and therefore that link is useless to them because they can't log into it. So you're never at risk for sending a screenshot or images around or data around that could fall into the wrong hands. And then last here is help. And again, we'll talk about those in a little bit more detail as we go through the course. Now, across the top, we have the search box. That's live search. That's another topic of the course we'll go through. As I move over to the right here, you'll see the timestamp. So I mentioned that this is near real-time software. So you can see it's 9:40 a.m. where I am here in San Francisco. And now it just switched over to 9:41. And my timestamp did. Now that's not a clock there. That's showing you how fresh the data is. And when I mentioned that there's a cache cycle running previously, that is representing when was the last time that that cache cycle ran. So if this demo is set to have a 20 or 30-second cache cycle, then that clock up there, that timestamp, is going to update every time that refreshes. So you'll see exactly how fresh your data is, and that follows you wherever you're going throughout the application. Even on a phone, you'll know exactly how fresh your data is and if something had gone wrong with your cache cycle. So next to that is the watch list. I'll again talk about that in detail. And then the last thing on the right is the logo, the Visual KPI logo. Now that logo can be replaced with your own company logo. That's done in the Visual KPI Designer by the administrator, but that is also an option for you. Okay, next, let's talk about this next layer down here. You've got profiles over here on the right. Again, we'll talk about each one of these in detail. Dashboards that you can toggle between, and if you have the rights to create a new one, the ability to right there. And then this bookmark bar. Now this looks just like the bookmark bar in your web browser, and it acts pretty much the same. It can link to anything inside of Visual KPI, any individual visualization or another dashboard, even a dashboard within someone else's profile if you have the rights to it. And you can edit it and all those things. Now it also can contain links to anything outside of Visual KPI, just like the toolbar in your browser. So if I wanted to link to another application, so I could start a work order on something, or if I had another intranet site, or a link to instructions of what someone should do in a particular thing, or security messages, whatever you wanted to, I can link there. This is not the only place that links take place, though. I'll show you as we go through the training that there are links and the possibility to link things throughout the entire application on individual objects, on individual pages, etc. Okay, so that is the next one. Now the third, or I guess the next topic we'll go through here is the breadcrumb bar. So I've got a home button that acts very similar to the Visual KPI logo here. And then depending on where I'm at, so if I go and I drill down into something here, let's go into region Northeast. And as I do, you'll see this breadcrumb bar build out, region Northeast, then Exton. And then if I was on an individual trend here, I'm on this training trend, and I just keep going down. You'll see exactly how I get to it. And if I want to go to a particular spot in the hierarchy, I can just click on it right there in the bookmark bar. Now on your phone, that bookmark bar will be there, and if it gets too long, it has a very nice way of collapsing, and you still have access to every object in the bookmark bar. So we'll show you that later. Okay, and then over on the far right is the gear icon. Okay, and we're going to go through that here in a little bit of detail. In fact, let's dive into that just a little bit right now. So the gear icon changes based on what page you're on or what's on the page you're looking at. I happen to be on a dashboard, so I have a couple of things that are specific to dashboards, like customized dashboard or a new dashboard. Now, every page, you're going to have a few things like ad hoc trends. This is my ability to start from scratch if I know what data I'm looking for in a data source and make a trend, even a trend with many pens on it, a correlated trend, a trend with calculations. I can do all kinds of advanced things in here if I have an understanding of how to access data through the interfaces to a data source. So it really depends on if you have that knowledge or not, whether the ad hoc trending feature plays an interesting role to you here. On just about any page, or I think on any page, you have the ability to pin it to a bookmark bar. Hide this bookmark bar. Let's do that real quick. So that just takes it out of the way if you're not using it. Some people don't use it, so you want to do that. I'm going to use it. I'm going to keep it visible. Next one is the theme. So you can switch to the dark theme here on any site, and your browser will remember that. So when you come back, it will pick whatever you had last. And so it's up to each individual end user whether they want to use the dark theme or the light theme. So the dark theme is great for operations centers or developers often like that, or it's just personal preference. A lot of people also on their phone like a dark theme. And it also makes some of these KPIs really jump out at you and become even more obvious. Okay, and then the last thing here in there is view in server time. So by default, the timestamps you're going to see on everything in the system, they're going to be in the time zone of wherever you're looking at it. So again, I'm here in San Francisco in US Pacific time, and if my Visual KPI server was in New York, that time is 3 hours ahead of me. Okay, but my client time, what I'm looking at here, is always going to match where I'm located. So where my phone or my browser is. And if you want to change that, we have many customers who say, I want everybody to be looking at all data and to consider it all at the time of where the server is located. Like maybe they do everything in GMT. And so that allows you to switch this over to server time. Now, I believe my server is also in Pacific time, so if I change that, it's probably not going to change anything. Oh no, it is in a different location. So it's 5 p.m. Where my server, but the time zone set on my server is. So that'll give you a sense for how that works. Okay, I'm going to go back to client time here. So those are just simple toggles. Okay, so that is a little bit about just navigating around before we talk about any individual object. Now, I also want to talk about some other core concepts with navigation or with just understanding the software. And to do that, I'm just going to go to any individual object. Let's pick this trend here. And let's go to this. Now, when I'm on a particular object, you can see that I have a title and a description for that. And I have a toolbar. Now, I also have a few buttons over here on the right. So the toolbar can be collapsed if you want. I can also take this to a full screen view, which is going to fill the whole browser with that view. So I don't have any of the navigation or other pieces there, and I can take it back out of full screen. That gets me back with all my navigation. So then you have a toolbar here that is going to change based on what you're looking at. I'm on a trend, so I have some things like cursors and different modes, and this is an SPC trend, so it's got some other options on it. I can always revert back to the original thing I pulled up if I had customized it. You'll see some common things around time ranges. This will appear on a lot of our visualizations and a lot of even our dashboards and charts and all kinds of things. In this particular case, I can export, and then there's some tools. Now, I'm not going to go into the individual ones for a trend because I'm going to go into detail on trends in another part of the course, but I just want you to understand the concept of the toolbar. Below that, you'll see another common concept you'll see. This is not just for trends, but you'll see these paddles for going forward and back in time, plus a time range here. So this is a 1 week trend. And if I click the paddle backwards or forwards, I'm going to go back in time one of those instances. You'll see me do this throughout the course. I'm not going to go into detail about it right now. And then below that is the legend. So the legend, and in most cases, things you're looking at, you have the ability to turn on and turn off things. So if I turn off this pen, I can, or if I want to turn off this upper control limit in this case, or turn off these rules. This is an SPC trend, so a little bit more of an advanced one. So you have a dynamic legend, and I'll show you more about that as we get to individual visualizations. Lastly, at the bottom, you have really the footer of the object, and you have a share button here that also is going to open up an email to exactly what I'm looking at. And even if I had customized this, I'll just do an example. If I change that from a week-long trend to a 1 hour trend, if I share this now, it's going to share this 1 hour trend. So even though I've customized it. So everything that you do is going to change the actual URL of the object up here, the address. And when you share it, people are going to see exactly what you're looking at. Okay? But they will see if things have changed since you looked at it, because the time will continue to move on. Lastly, down in the lower left, this is an example of a KPI or a trend here that has a link attached to it. So this one has a link. I don't know what this goes to, but this is where you might see a link. And if there's one, if there are multiple links on this object, you'll see a link to a list of the various links you can have. So this might contain, instructions on what to do, plus any messages, plus maybe a link to another part of Visual KPI where you can see other KPIs related to this trend. Okay, so that's another key element there in the software. All these pieces that you're going to see repeated throughout, and all these functions that you'll see repeated throughout. Okay, so let's talk about, let's go back over here to the navigation menu, and let's look at the help section and go into a little bit of detail here. So anytime you're navigating the site, you can always go over to help and see a few different things. If it's been specified, you'll know who is the administrator of your site if you need to contact them. You'll see how to contact us as well, and all the site status. So is your site okay? When was the last time cache ran, and how long did it take? Which data sources are going, and are they all okay? So I happen to have an OSI soft Pi system and a SQL Server database here, and I can see if alerts are running, and etc. And then I also, very important, I can see what version of my server is running on in case I need that for troubleshooting. Okay. Now, there's another link down here that gives you a bunch more advanced stuff. I'm going to click on that. Now, you can see some of that site status information, but you can also see all of the settings, the license key information, how many, what your license covers, if logging is turned on, bunch of statistics, how many KPIs. There's 1,126 KPIs in this system, and there's 320 groups of them. How many of each chart type, and even everything you need to know about what browser you're running. So you can see that I'm running Chrome here. You can see what site I'm on, all kinds of interesting stuff there. So that's a little bit about the help section, and a little bit for diagnostics if you're ever contacting support and you need to identify, again, what version you're running, or what browser, or what version of the browser, or whether you see a problem with cache or a specific interface or something, we can help you with it. Okay, so back out to the other pieces, and I'm going to go back out to the dashboard here. And without showing you, because this is really something the administrator drives, it's important for you to just understand that all the colors, all the naming, even the language that you see in the software, all of it is customizable. So if you look here at all these colors for KPIs and their status, and even the names of the statuses like double high and low and double low, all those things can be renamed on a site-wide basis. They can be given their own colors, lots of customization options. So my demo sites are, for the most part, using the look and the colors that are out of the box with some minor customizations, but you can take this to a crazy level. Okay, you can also customize that logo. You can customize the status icons that you'll see. So I'm using like this check mark here. This is a downward arrow. These are all the default ones, but we have a whole icon library in there that can change those. So just another sort of theme. And then I talked about the dark theme and light theme as well. So a lot to do with colors. Now the next core concept, I'm going to go to any list view of things here. Let's go to this San Francisco group here and pull that up. So here's a bullet chart view of some information. And I just want to talk about, whenever you see a list or a table of information here, you'll see these little arrows on it. And you can sort them however you want. So here I'm sorting by the name, or I could sort by the actual and see the highest one here at the top, or click it again to go to the lowest one at the top. So I have this ability to sort and also filter what I'm looking at. We'll talk about filters in a little bit more detail when we talk about KPIs. So another just user interface concept that you need to understand. Now also, we can embed any of our objects, any of our screens inside of another application. So I'm going to take an example of this map here, and let's open it up to a bigger one. I could also do this with the dashboard itself, but I think it's more obvious if I show it on an individual visualization. So here I am looking at a map with a bunch of KPIs on it. And you'll see I have the toolbar and I have all this navigation stuff around it. Now, if I wanted to just embed everything you see, I could just go up to the address bar, take that address, and then embed it in something like a SharePoint portal, or in any other application that supports an iframe, or any other place to embed some HTML content. And no matter what size screen you put it on, our stuff's going to look great, because all of our objects know how to change size and shape based on what screen they're looking at. Right? So you don't have to worry about those things. Now, one of the problems with that, though, is if you just take the URL at the top, you're going to get all this navigation. And maybe you just want people to see this data and you don't want them to navigate away from it. And the way to do that is use our embed concept or feature. If you go up to the URL, if you can see where I'm typing, right before the question mark in the URL, if I type the word embed and then hit enter, that's going to give me that same object, but you'll notice it took away all the navigation. So if I embed it now with this URL, people could switch the visualization. They could say, I want to see all these in a list view, or a bullet chart view, or a KPI map view, or a map view. But what they can't do is navigate away from that data. So it gives you a clean way to embed our stuff in other software. So I'm going to go back up here and remove the word embed to get me back where I was. And now we're back to that same site. Okay, so that's a little bit about embedding. We can also embed other people's software in our application inside of Visual KPI, and we'll show you that. Actually, I'll give you a little quick look at it right now, And then it's really talked about in more detail in the Visual KPI Designer course. But down here at the bottom of my dashboard, I have a YouTube video here. I'll mute. I have an embedded form here as well. So this could be embedding of a security camera feed or a shift reporting form. So people are walking around, they need to fill out things they see, or even manual data entry or some custom process graphic where actually controlling something. So again, you can embed stuff right in our software. Okay. So that covers a lot of the tour of the basic core concepts of the user experience. Next, we're going to go into everything you need to know about profiles and dashboards, and then into the visualizations, and then into the real details of how to work with your data. So until next time.